to our very first Q&A session for the MicroStream Hackathon. Yeah, this session is all about MicroStream, and here you can ask really anything, any question you have about MicroStream. What is MicroStream? How to get started, or maybe you have any special questions prepared. So you can use our chat here, or you also can use your microphone to ask your question. And if there are no questions, then we will pick the most important questions from the online forum. We have especially online forum for the MicroStream Hackathon here, and so yeah, let's get started. Is there any question from the audience?
Yes, I have several questions.
Great.
So yeah, so I'm from Eclipse background, so I've used a lot of Eclipse plugin development. I'm looking for an update site for MicroStream. Is there such an update site?
Maybe this is a question for Florian.
I know you are using Maven to provide the libraries, but would be cool to have also for the Eclipse developers a bundle or plugin.
What advantage would it be? We don't have any Eclipse plugins. We just have Java libraries.
Yeah, so my approach would then be to bundle this myself to integrate into a Eclipse RCP. So I'm not sure if you're that familiar with Eclipse development, but I'm interested in integrating MicroStation into a bigger application, modular application.
So in OSGI applications based on Eclipse? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably a good idea to do that. Yeah, you can integrate them as plain jar files right now, but it is a better fit to have them lying around in a P2 repository.
Yes, okay.
Or maybe you can build your plugins with Tycho, the Eclipse Maven bridge.
Yes, I will find a solution, but I thought you already considered this use case and had some P2 update site already available, but doesn't seem so.
No, we hadn't the request for now.
Okay.
A few customers want to use MicroStream in plain OSGI applications, but not on Eclipse RCP.
Okay.
So there was no need, but I will put it on a roadmap, on a backlog. So it shouldn't be too much trouble to put it in a P2 repository.
Oh, cool, thanks.
Great question. Thank you.
So if no one else has questions, I have some more.
Go ahead.
So it's also in the Eclipse ecosystem. So I wondered if MicroStream works properly with Eclipse modeling framework. So I would use EMF for code generation. So my data structures, the model, and use MicroStream as persistence layer. Do you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, basically you can persist any Java objects in the EMF models, generate Java code, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
So you can use it, sure. Yeah. So you don't have to use XML or any other format. Or what is the idea behind it?
Okay. So the idea is really just think as a Java developer. Don't worry about anything in between persistence and application layer. I guess this is what I got from last time. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically what's MicroStream all about. That developers don't have to worry about the persistence layer at all. Just use a few methods of our API and you're good. And if you find new use cases, it's a perfect thing for the hackathon as well. to provide maybe proof of concepts and stuff like that. And the Eclipse community is pretty huge, so I guess it will have a pretty good impact as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Do you have further questions, or?
Yeah, but maybe someone else wants also to.
If nobody does interrupt you, then go ahead.
Okay.
No problem.
So then I wondered about how to implement transactions. So at business layer level. So what mechanism would you suggest to have a unit of works implemented? So I know you have the store methods which are atomic, I guess, but at business logic level, we also need more non-atomic operations to be done in one transaction. I think this is not covered by MicroStream, so we have to come up with our own solution.
Yeah, a good way would be to use a context object for the transaction where you collect all changed collections and entities, and then you can hand over the collection to the store all method, and then the objects are stored atomically in a transaction. You can put multiple objects in one atomic transaction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we do it. If you have big operations, which go through a lot of layers or different business entities, then we just collect the stored objects, or we open a transaction beforehand, hand over the storer collects all changed objects, and afterwards you can call commit on the storer object. Yeah.
Okay.
We also have some questions collected from the last conferences and Java user group meetups as well, but we would prefer to get the questions from the audience. Okay, then I would pick a question here from the last conference. This here we have some common questions, also some questions about database programming, internal questions, and migration, and so on. And okay, let's start with some database related questions. For instance, one of the most asked questions is how to deal with indexes. So this is a very important question. Maybe Florian, you can tell us something about what's the difference between the index in a relational model and in the object model.
The difference between database indices or indexes or constraints and the indexes in an object model is none in the object model at all. So you don't have to worry about any relations or one-to-n constraints or stuff like that. You just follow your pointers. The index is just an old thing from the database world you don't have to worry about in the object model anymore. But okay, if you want to have direct access to certain objects by for example, a customer number or stuff like that, you just can collect your entities in maps and use key value indexing for direct access. So you don't have to search huge collections, for example.
Yeah. And there is a further question. Many people ask this question. If I use collections and I have one object and this is stored many times in a collection, so is this object also persisted only once in the storage, or do I get multiple stores of an object in the storage? So it's very important.
Yeah, the object is just stored once, and the references are stored multiple times, of course. but the object itself is only stored once.
Okay, yeah, very interesting, very important to know. So here is one more simple question. Can I store my objects also in plain files? Okay, go ahead.
Objects can be, or the storage layer is exchangeable, or you can use maybe, for example, 2 different storage layers, one for live data and one for backup data. You can put your file or binary data into plain files or cloud stores or databases or key value stores, stuff like that. We have adapters to pretty much anything there is right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question related to that. So I saw you can have a backup when objects are written. So can we have a human readable format for the backup, or can we have different backup types?
The format is always the same. It's a binary format, but you can export the binary data to a human readable format. What we have right now is a CSV format, but it's interchangeable, so you can implement an XML exporter as well.
Yes, but okay, we would have to export it every time we need to have a look at the data. So my idea was to have an automatic human readable version of the real data.
You want to access the live data of the application, I guess.
Exactly. I saw you have a REST service infrastructure for this, but maybe for a very quick look at the data, that this would be maybe more interesting.
Yeah, if you just want to browse through it, our REST service should be fine, because it's more for debugging purposes. But if you want to connect with external software, the best way is to expose your data over REST, or you can use GraphQL. GraphQL is pretty cool because it's a more sophisticated version of REST, if you will, and it's pretty easy to implement. And in our bookstore demo at our GitHub site, we have used GraphQL as well, so you can have a look at it if you want to go this way, or the classic REST exposure of your data is another good way to go.
Okay, I see.
Yes, this is very good that we talk about the GraphQL stuff, because we will also provide a special hackathon session about the topic GraphQL. The next few days we will publish the entire hackathon session program on the hackathon website. There you can see we will provide many additional sessions, very interesting content about Helidon, GraphQL, GraalVM, and yeah, many interesting libraries you can use together with MicroStream. And GraphQL is very interesting and very important topic. And many people ask for the possibility to get access to the stored data by external applications. And so this GraphQL is made for that. We had this question very often, does MicroStream provide backups? Maybe Christian, you can tell us something about the backup strategies of MicroStream?
Yeah, we invented 2 ways of a backup. The first one is kind of like a storage mirror, and it mirrors the data all the time to a second binary storage. You will be able to choose a different storage type. For example, your main storage could be a file storage, and the second one, or the backup, the mirror backup, could be inside any database, but also in a binary form. Yeah, this is the first approach. This is kind of like a mirror, and in most cases, this mirror is used to to give a chance that the database could, for example, when the data is corrupted, when something has happened, maybe for example, a volume of a container is disconnected or so on. So then the binary format is stored half, and so the storage is corrupted, and then MicroStream will automatically repair from the mirror, and so that only the last write access is lost after this disconnect. So this is one approach, a database mirror, and the second one is a full backup. And for this, yeah, you can have a look to our documentation, so you can create a full backup, as Florian said. Can use a CSV or something else.
Yeah. And we had, I guess, yesterday a question related to that. What's the advantage if I use a database system instead of plain files? And the answer here is always you can use the backup functions of the database. So it really makes sense to use still using a database for your persistence. Yeah, you can use the backup functions, and for clustering your persistent data, for instance, you can use the database functions. And what is also interesting, many people, they ask us what is the best approach to store data. It's hard to say, but what is very interesting is that the object stores of the cloud providers, because they are fully managed. So you can use, sometimes they're called object stores, sometimes blob stores, and they are fully managed by the cloud provider. So you don't have to care about the size of your storage data and how to scale it horizontally or to distribute it over regions or so. So this is fully managed, and so this is very interesting to use a cloud object store for your persistent strategy. Here is another interesting question about the philosophy, because the question is, does MicroStream provide a user management? So this is missing, or authorization, and so why is this missing in MicroStream? Do you have an idea, Florian? Why do we not implement here user management similar to a database system?
Yeah, because we are not a server anymore. The database management systems always tried to get a huge part of the application done inside the database server, and therefore they had to offer user management or export functionalities, store procedures, stuff like that. But with MicroStream, the source of truth is always the application, validation and user management and stuff like that. Pretty much everything is handled by the application itself. So you can use Java libraries on the market for user management. Apache has libraries for that, or you can connect to an LDAP server or whatever. Yeah. And there is no need to implement management stuff like application servers do.
Yeah, okay, this is really very important, because we have to think a little bit different here. So everything what can be managed by the Java server should be done by the server. So actually we move the database management system to the Java layer, right? So there is no more classic database server functionality in MicroStream. So here the developers really have to think different.
So, but I think we can reveal that we are working on a server mode for MicroStream. So, and of course, in this server mode, we implemented a small or a lightweight authentication, of course, to secure the connection to the database server.
Yes. Then here's another interesting question. What's about other databases? So because currently we provide database connectors to really several kind of databases, relational database, so Oracle relational database, Oracle NoSQL is supported, also Oracle NoSQL, distributed caches like Oracle Coherence and Oracle Cloud Blob Store, but currently Oracle only, and also MySQL. And so many people are asking for open source databases like PostgreSQL, MariaDB, etc. And yes, we already have connectors to other databases, so we test them and yeah, maybe next release, Florian, we can release some new connectors to databases, I guess. I don't know how the plan is currently.
Yeah, they will be in the next release, for example, Postgres or a few other databases. And we can expose more connectors to cloud storage services like Amazon S3 or Amazon DynamoDB. What else comes to mind? We have Kafka in store and MongoDB, for example, and a lot more.
Okay, this is very interesting for the attendees of this hackathon. So I guess there are a lot of people who are interested in connectors to yeah, open source databases, especially for this hackathon. So yes, be provided. Some internal question. Yesterday there was a really very interesting question. Where are the objects really managed and stored, off heap or on heap?
Yeah, the objects are managed by the virtual machine, so they have to be on heap, of course. That the garbage collector can handle them, and off heap, we are using off heap storage for index data or caching data, for example. Yeah.
Okay, good. Interesting question here about GraalVM. MicroStream and GraalVM, does this work? Also in, of course it works with the hotspot virtual machine, but does it also work in a native image? Florian, I guess we have here tests, and we can say yes, it works in native images as well, right?
Yeah, we have working prototypes for that. It's a little work to do, but we could get it going. Yeah.
Okay.
So the main thing is to open up the GraalVM compiler for reflection stuff. So you pretty much have to whitelist stuff you will use later on, but that can be done with libraries as well. For example, you have all classes in certain packages you want to use, so you can say print out every class from this package, and you're good to go.
Okay.
So it can be automatized. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is good to know for everybody who wants to join the hackathon, and we will provide a session where we show how this works. I will set this session on the agenda, and this is very interesting to see for the participants how this works with native images. Yes. Okay. Some questions from the audience, or so we have 2 or 3 additional questions for today here on the my list.
Marcus,
yes.
We have one question: how is MicroStream working with an Pva mode? So I guess a Pva is still a web application, and so the whole content is based on a server communication. So MicroStream will be part of the server also on Pva mode, and maybe there are some possibilities to reach an kind of like an offline Android mode, for example. I'm not pretty sure, but maybe. So, and then you can use MicroStream also on an Android device, for example. So that would work. Yes.
Yeah, you can use it in a Java environment. So if you have a native Android application, you can use it, of course, and in a progressive web app, just is a client-side part is in JavaScript, of course. They cannot be used, but online in a server part, if it is a Java application, you can use it, of course. But the progressive web standard doesn't have to do anything with the Java VM per se, so it's not a part where we can work with MicroStream.
The question here is it mandatory to load the entire objects into the memory? So this is a very basic question, but very important. And here the answer is, if you have enough memory, then of course you can load the entire database into the memory. Then you don't have to deal with I/O operations, and everything will be super fast because everything is in memory only. But I guess in most cases, the users won't have enough memory and have much bigger storage data size, and then of course you can load only the amount of data into the memory. Yeah, it depends on the memory size you have. So if you don't have enough memory, then load only the important data into the memory, and all other data you can load on demand with lazy loading into the memory. And so you can have terabytes of storage data and only some gigabyte of RAM, and this will work fine.
So, and the best practice for that would be, as Florian mentioned earlier, to use, for example, if you have a huge list of data or a huge list of objects, so you can split up this list in a lot of small lists and add them to a map, and use the lazy wrapper on the list. So you have a map with a lot of small collections, and all these collections are lazy loaded. So you don't have to load all the collections if you want to find a specific row, for example, or a specific object. And I would say this is the best way to do or to use the lazy things of MicroStream.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And the best way to do it is to use segmentation based on business rules. For example, you don't put any all revenue of your company into one big list. You can split it up by business years or even month, or you can use literals as index. For example, all customers from where the name starts with A is a separate list for every letter, for example, where you can use business rules of any sort to segment your data, and that's the best way to go because it's a good fit for your business logic as well.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you, Florian. That's right.
This might be a very helpful hint. Yes. And here, last session we had interesting question about full text search. Then Florian, you explained to use maybe Apache
Lucene, yeah.
Lucene for that. Yes, maybe you can tell us something about that, because many people think databases are very strong in full text search and very fast. And how can we implement this in Java?
Yeah, actually they are. They use the same algorithms like other libraries do as well, and Lucene is one of them, and it's basically the standard in the Java world regarding full text search and indexing or text-based indexing, and we combined Lucene indices with MicroStream storages. You can see it in the bookstore demo as well. There we used Lucene index to search for book titles, and it works basically in the same speed as databases do. And that is one missing part of the core Java libraries, I guess. A good full text search, a lot of people use if string contains and regex and stuff like that, but it's not really fast. So a optimized Lucene index is a good way to go, or external systems, of course, for search servers and stuff like that, which use Lucene as well under the hood. So you can use Lucene directly in your application, and that's the fastest way.
Very nice. Okay, this might be helpful, of course. Yeah, one more thing, Christian. Many people, they ask you, and you had a session at the JCon about this topic. I guess this was building the perfect object model, because many people cannot imagine. They think more in a relational way, so they cannot really imagine how to build a perfect object model for MicroStream. And this is really do I have to build a special object model for MicroStream, or what is the best approach? So can I build any kind of object model, or is there anything I have to know about this?
Well, I think that's the hardest question. We don't have enough time to answer that, but I will do my best. So let's say it in an example. For you have customers on the one hand and orders in the other, and in a normal relational database, you will store the customers in a list or in a table, and also the order in a table. In the object world, in the object-oriented world, you will use that different. So you will store only the customers in a list, and each order is part of a customer. So you don't have a list of orders at all in your application. So each customer has its own list with orders. This is a quite good example for the differences between relational databases and MicroStream, or the object-oriented way to store objects. So, but I think important is to say you have to think about, because maybe sometimes it's better to store the orders in a collection on the root, for example, and the customers store as a collection on the root object. It depends on you. You have to decide it. What is the best approach for your application? I think that's the best part of that. You have to decide how to design your object model. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. It's like the question before. You can fit the object model based on your business needs, your business rules. And if you always access the orders over the customers, then I do it like that. I put a list of orders inside the customers object. If I will access the orders over the stores, for example, I put a list of orders to the store object, and the order has a link or reference to the customer who did the order or stuff like that. And that's it always depends on your business needs, and you can design your object model perfectly to fit your needs and make it a performant way to traverse your data and query your data.
So I think there is one more important thing. So when you use Hibernate, so all the time you have to handle bidirectional approaches to create your relations between those objects, and this is a quite huge performance impact. So it's really slow, and on the object-oriented way, you don't have to create those bidirectional things, and that, I think that's quite good on MicroStream.
Yeah, and very often the people ask here in related to this topic, can I have multiple routes? So, or all objects are connected to one route, or what is here the best practice?
So you can have multiple routes in one MicroStream instance. You can also have multiple MicroStream instances in your application. That's totally up to you. But in my experience, I have never used multiple routes, and I used one route, and this route can have multiple collections. And yeah, as I said before, it's up to you to design your data model as you want. But yeah, if you need multiple routes, then create it. It's possible.
One question related to that: does having several streams increase the memory footprint, or is there no concern? So can we have several instances running without any constraints, or should we avoid this?
Of course,
If
you
you
can.
don't,
Oh, Florian.
yeah, if you don't need to, you don't have to start up multiple instances. But the memory footprint will increase, but not too much. It always depends on the amount of data you're using. But the base data MicroStream is using are just a few K, so
Okay.
you don't have to worry. Yeah.
How to deal binary data? Should we use an external repository for this, or push it into the MicroStream database, or avoid this? So
Yeah, it
for
depends.
example, yeah,
If you have do you have a lot of big files or small ones?
smaller ones.
Smaller ones, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have to access them a lot, it's probably a good way to use byte arrays or other binary stuff and just store it with the object graph. We have, for example, a custom type handler in our examples, which stores a image.
Mm-hmm.
So it just encodes into PNG and loads it again. So you can use lossless and compressed data to store it. You can store files compressed as a zip or gzip or just plain. Basically, if you put them in a byte array, you're good to go. And on the other hand, if your application or your UI or your services will access a lot of resources like files and stuff like that, it's probably the best way to go with an external system and just store a path to the sources.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And as developers, should we be concerned about memory cleanup? So, or is this all done by garbage collection of JVM?
Yeah, the garbage collection will handle objects which are not reachable anymore. They're basically deleted.
Okay.
But if you you don't have enough memory to load the whole database in memory, you can use a lazy references. And these lazy references can be cleared as well, but they will stay in the storage layer. So you don't lose the data. And if you reload the lazy objects, the data will be put into memory again. And the cleanup of the lazy references is automated.
Okay.
And you can define custom rules for that as well. Basically, if the memory usage goes above a certain threshold, for example, 75%, the manager will tackle the lazy references and clear them out of the memory. With another rule, for example, the lazy references store internally when the last touched timestamp is or was. And you can say every lazy reference which wasn't touched for the last hour can be cleared. Or if you run or you break a threshold of 90% memory usage, you clear all objects above 5K or stuff like that. And you can customize it down to the last detail, but the default setting just works fine. I guess it was a 75% memory threshold, and all objects older than half an hour are gone or cleared. And in most applications, the default settings are just fine. Yeah.
You can find also a topic of this in our documentation. So under loading data, lazy loading, and then you will find clearing lazy references. There is a good explanation how the clear manager is work.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and the class is just called lazy reference manager. Yeah, so just search for lazy in a documentation. Yeah.
This is the page, especially on the loading data, lazy loading, and here you find clearing lazy references. And you can see one example to start the lazy reference manager to clear the references automatically. So easy thing.
Any further questions, or is this all for today?
Oh, we have another question in the Pojos. There is no need for IDs in MicroStream. Oh, this is an answer, I think, or isn't it?
Because the last question is, I have to ask if the orders are gone if I delete a customer in our previous example. If I have orders stored inside a customer object, and if you delete the customer or remove the customer, then all objects which are at the customer or only referenced by the customer are gone as well. That's true. So it's basically like in Java, if an object isn't reachable from another object, then the garbage collector will delete the instances from memory, and that's exactly how MicroStream works. If an object isn't reachable anymore from the root or any other objects, then it's considered deleted. Yeah. And that is a part of the documentation as well. Yeah.
So it is better to put it in the root when I need it later.
Yeah, if you want to delete a customer, but the customer has references to, or only the customer has references to orders, for example, the better way would be to work with deleted flags or stuff like that. So the customer doesn't show up in a UI layer or a different layer anymore, but the customers or the orders can be accessed from the application, or you put the orders to the root. That's another way to go. Yeah.
So in our experience of the project, it's always, in most of cases, it's better to use a deletion flag, something like active or not active, or something like this, because also in the normal relational databases, it's in most cases it's totally impossible to delete an object with references to different other tables. In this case, in MicroStream, it's the same. Use a deletion flag, and everything is fine.
So there was one question from me. Didn't type right. It is when I have Pojo, I can use it in MicroStream. I don't need to have any ID. But when I want to list sort of Pojos in a grid, I think the grid needs a kind of ID to display the rows. Is this right, or is there a trick that I can put a list without IDs in a grid?
No, you won't need an ID inside an object, also in the Vaadin grid. So I think it's up to you. When in most cases you will need a special ID for a customer to identify them in the business way, not in a technical way.
Okay.
And you will no longer need technical IDs, but sometimes you will need business IDs to identify the customers, for example.
Thank you, Christian.
We have a brand new online forum. And if there are further questions, do you have special questions about MicroStream, then you can use our hackathon forum. And here also we have you have the chance to ask questions about GraalVM and Helidon, and we will answer these questions in the upcoming Q&A sessions. So you can ask your questions here, or join the Q&A sessions live and ask your questions here. Or as I mentioned, you can ask the question in the forum, and then we pick up all the questions and answer the questions together with our partners from Oracle, from the GraalVM team and the Helidon team, and they will be able to answer all your technical questions about GraalVM and Helidon. Okay.
Oh, thanks. Very good. Good idea.
Yeah, this is really great because we have great support from the Oracle guys here, and so all people who join the MicroStream Hackathon get really first-class support by all the people who write the code, and through all these 3 months of duration of this hackathon, and this is really great. And we are really happy to have also the guys from the GraalVM and from the Helidon team here in our Q&A sessions. And in the next few weeks, we also have deep dive sessions about Helidon, GraalVM. So this will be an amazing time. And so we will help you to build really cool stuff and win the prize finally, hopefully.
Yes, we tried.
Great. Okay, then if there are no further questions, thanks for joining. And
Yes.
Maybe I has one question.
Okay.
Because a friend of mine asked me, he has no time now. He works in some service, but he asked me, it is necessary to do something with all of these 3 frameworks, or he can choose MicroStream or something else.
Okay, I cannot find the new slide. We will publish tomorrow a new website, an update of the hackathon website. And then you can find all the new information, especially about using GraalVM and Helidon. We have changed this a little bit because we have 2 new partners, technical partners. It's the GraalVM team and the Helidon team. And so we have additional awards. So you can build what you like with MicroStream. And if you build anything cool stuff using Helidon or GraalVM, then you can win a special award on top of the prizes. But we will launch all the new information tomorrow, and then we will inform all registered people or people who are already registered for the hackathon. So this is how it works. And then we will offer really many additional online sessions. Most sessions will be on Tuesday, every Tuesday. Sessions about GraalVM deep dive, Helidon introduction, GraalVM building native images and using GraalVM in a polyglot way, calling RESTful services in a reactive way with Helidon, Helidon DB client, and so on. So many really high quality talks by the Oracle Labs guys, starting from next week. And we also will have additional sessions about MicroStream, some deep dive and expert sessions, and also 3 hours training course So this will be published tomorrow on the Hackathon website. Okay, then thank you all for joining today, and have a good day or good night wherever you are. Stay healthy. See you next week.